Welcome back, everybody, to the This Is My Bourbon Podcast Isosessions. I'm Perry, the host of This Is My Bourbon Podcast. I am super excited to be welcoming back a really good friend of the show. She's been on multiple times. Always have a really fun time getting to chat with her. Haley from Wilderness Trail. Haley, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
What up?
What up?
What up? No, I'm doing well. I was just telling Haley about some technical issues that we were having with the podcast, but it's nothing you guys need to worry about. It's all going to be fine. And again, this is definitely me reassuring myself and nobody else that things are hunky dory. So
Six times you said it's all going to be fine in the last 6 minutes. So
it's all going to be fine. I poured some of the Wilderness Trail 4-year bottled and bond weeded. I definitely brought out the rye bourbon and the rye whiskey as well to help kind of calm my nerves a little bit. It only seemed appropriate.
See, it's all going to be fine.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of Wilderness Trail weeded bourbons, your all 6-year came out recently. Yeah, woo indeed. We talked about it back in, golly, when did I come to the distillery to chat with you? Was that January or February?
I believe it. Yeah, it was around February. I believe it was pre-quarantine. So
yeah, pre-COVID.
Yeah, COVID.
And we had talked about how that was going to get released in March. Of course, everything shut down in March.
Yeah,
and so y'all pushed it back. But it seems like it was really successful in the launch. Is that kind of how you guys feel about it?
Yeah, absolutely. I know we kind of talked about, trying to tease it out, saying, hey, I think like your podcast was one of the first that we talked about being like, all right, be on the lookout. 6 coming up. There was a big teaser sitting out. And
oh yeah.
Yeah, My Bourbon Pod got it first.
Yeah, we did.
Exclusive. And then COVID happened, and obviously we felt like having a launch of some sort was just not a good idea. Obviously, people quarantining, doing those things, we were like, all right, let's not get a bunch of people out of their homes into the distillery at that time. So we basically we waited up until we were kind of permissed by the governor, by Daddy Andy, to open, because kind of the distilleries have all been kind of scrambling and meeting and Zoom calls left and right, saying like,
right,
once things started to open back up, figuring out, well, how do we open, what do we do, blah blah blah, and kind of generating our own guidelines to present to get passed. And then basically we were like, once we found out the day we could open, we were like, boom, let it drop, let it ride. So so we did. We released on the day that we were allowed to open up for tours and things like that. And we did a pre-sale. Some of us, there were a couple other releases that happened kind of in the midst of everything. And so we kind of did some recon work and saw how other distilleries are doing it and how to best like navigate the waters. But yeah, so we decided, we were like, okay, this is going to be it's very limited anyway. It's going to be super limited in the market. But we were like, okay, let's go for about 100 bottles, send that out there, see what happens from there. And gosh, they sold out within a couple hours, I think is how fast the first round went. And basically we were all kind of blown away. Shane was like, well, okay, well, let's just, let's add some more to that. So we ended up, I think in total, we ended up pre-selling about 350 bottles or something like that. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
It was wild. Truly unexpected. I mean, it's something you always kind of like hope for,
Yeah, of course.
But it's funny how we feel like we're still so young and shy and sheepish about things sometimes, where we're like, we hope
Oh yeah, of
people
course.
show up to our party, you know.
Do you think anybody even saw the Evite or?
I don't know. Should I get more chips and dip? I'm not sure.
Is this enough beer? Is 3 kegs enough beer? What are we doing here?
Right.
So, Todd, I'm curious too. I think we might have touched on this a little bit back in February, but you guys, like, is there a chance for this, especially based on the response, for the 6-year to, and maybe not even just 6 years, but just some of the higher age stuff to kind of make it to the mass market, especially based on the response to the release?
I think yes. I think eventually. I think especially the 6-year. Well, and it's funny because we had. I say we as if I planned this whole thing. Shane and Pat had this had a vision in mind, obviously, when they were creating Wilderness Trail and kind of creating the programming that would happen. And the rest of the time, though, since we have released product, we have basically changed things that we do based on consumer feedback, right? Our consumers, you guys are the reasons why we make the choices we do, and
Yeah, of course.
Obviously, otherwise, what's the point, right? Shane and Pat aren't going to drink it all, although they could try. And so the initial idea was that once we reached 6 years, that was going to be like our basement. That was going to be all you saw from us, going forward. Like, boom, we're at 6. Don't worry about the rest. And basically, two things have happened since then that have kind of changed our course as far as how we're programming this now. One, our 4-year has been so well received.
Oh yeah.
A lot of people have said, "Oh, it's good for a 4. It's going to be great in a 6, whatever." But then some people, I think even you, Perry, had mentioned, like, the 4 is great. Why touch it?
Yeah, we had said that, and it took. I think it was Dixon Deadman who put it to me that, like, it doesn't matter if it's a younger product. If it's good, it's good. Yeah, and then that kind of shifted my thinking about it. That I was like, well, yeah, you're right. And I don't know if you've kept up with the show much recently, but we also have been kind of in love with Hotel Tango, which is and their 2-year-old bourbon, unbelievable. I mean, I was just blown away by what a 2-year-old bourbon could even taste this good. And their rye was exceptional as well. And, I did have to kind of walk back some of my thoughts going, well, I don't want to talk like, it's good, but it's 2 years old.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I had to, and it's part of that definitely came about because of the way that I was talking about Wilderness Trail when it first came out. I didn't want to keep saying it's good, but I think it's a lot. It's easy to think about what it could be in a couple of years, but it's just as easy to put a period after it's really good.
That's a great way of putting it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, that, don't get me wrong, I am excited to see what it is actually like at 6 years, but at 4 years old, it's still a spectacular product. And I'm actually drinking some of the 4-year Bottled and Bond weeded right now, and I can confirm it's very good.
Very good. Period.
Yes.
I love it. Well, and I love that mentality too. Just because you're right. Like, we, especially in bourbon, we expect things to age and to be aged longer and to do those things. And I think we're in a wave. The last 5 to 8 years really has been a wave of newcomers that aren't prepared to give you an aged bourbon right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so as a consumer, and myself too, I love a good, 8-year-old product is wonderful, but where are you going to find those? I mean, there's plenty around, but it's not quite as, it's not quite as abundant as a 2-year or 4-year.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so as a consumer from that standpoint too, it's like, we're always going to be half disappointed what you're drinking until you get that whatever age range you seem to prefer, but
Yeah.
so yeah, exactly. The 4-year, it's been good, and that's exactly it. We had we were of that same kind of mind frame too until the 4-year came out, and in the last couple years, it's been just really making, all of our 4-year products have just been really making the name for themselves. And we're like, okay, well, good. And maybe 4-year is a good thing. Maybe it's something we keep up with. Maybe it's something that we keep more mass produced and save something, 6, 8, 10, whatever, for kind of those specialty releases, more of those unicorn, bottles.
Yeah.
And the other kind of part to why our 6-year is so limited right now is that we, with our barrel pick program, we, to be honest, we ate through so much of our age supply.
That's awesome.
It is truly an astounding problem to have.
Yeah, no kidding.
Like,
no kidding.
Say, you get all these people that say, oh, 6 years, can't wait for 6 years. But then everyone picks these 4-year-old to 5-year-old wheated barrels and they buy the whole barrel and it's all gone. It's all gone.
But I mean, you've of course got more stuff aging, and when it does hit 6 years, I mean, I imagine that, like you were saying, that is going to wind up being on the market more widely than it is right now. But I do look forward to when that happens, and I want to kind of like cap off the talking shop, talking business side of it. Yeah, just because like that's not entirely what the Isosessions are about. We've been doing these because we during quarantine times, it's nice to be able to reach out to friends and say how you've been doing, and making sure that everybody's okay and whatnot.
Yeah.
And so and yeah, we are recording this in July. It's pretty far removed from the initial lockdown, the initial wave of coronavirus cases. But how have you been faring through all of this?
And it's been an interesting ride. It's been really, really interesting. Of course, like I'm one of our brand ambassadors, or whatever title you want to give me. It changes every day. Just depends.
You've always said that. You've always been like, I wear 1,000 different hats at Wilderness Trail. So
whatever.
It's nice to hear that hasn't changed.
Really, yeah. And I guess it's the beauty of wearing so many hats, is that even in quarantines, I'm still always busy. And so, like I don't hit the road. It's funny, right before everything got shut down, I had just received kind of some of my traveling schedules from different distributors and talked about, our expansions to different states and whatnot. And, I was like, basically for the next 5 to 6 months, like, all right, cool. You're on the road. Bye. See you later. And then, yeah, and then got totally grounded. And so now my life though has shifted from, being on premise and being that way to just Zoom calls. I walk and run a lot. So during my walks, if you hear the wind blowing, or if my meetings just have a lot of wind in them, it's just because I'm on the road, and I'm sorry, a girl's got to get her steps in, and here's how we're doing it these days.
Sure. Yeah. And I'm sure that you've had, or I hope at least, clients have been pretty understanding of that to a degree.
Oh, 100%, you know.
That's awesome.
Oh, totally. Everyone's just that's one of the things I love about this too is everyone's just making do, right? We're all just figuring out by the seat of our pants and whatever. You're having technical issues one day, cool. Your kids are crying in the back,
Oh yeah.
you gotta go, fine, call me later. Like, you know, it's fine. So so many of my accounts have met my cat and like
Fantastic.
right? They're like, oh, you have lovely artwork. I'm like, yeah, thanks. You know, so
That's adorable.
that whole there's like that kind of different side of getting to know each other a little bit too. It's just like Zoom meetings, especially like seeing my newfound office space and things like that. So you kind of get to know each other on those levels a little bit too. But I love it just because we just have been constantly rolling and it's just a matter of, all right, cool, we're not in person anymore. What do we do online and how do we roll from there? So I wear a lot more yoga pants and passenger attire and I basically mullet my way through life. I'm a walking mullet. I'm a business on top, party on the bottom. It's fine.
I will say I have definitely discovered the wonder of sweatpants. And like I don't know how, like I guess I just had this like ages old stigma of like sweatpants are just like, they're just really gross looking and like they can be just unflattering or unappealing or whatever, but like you get a good like hard tapered sweatpant with pockets and if it's got a little bit of flair to it or whatever, it's functional out in public. You don't have to feel so bad about going out of the house and not dressed in real pants or whatever.
Yeah.
But like I did you ever watch How I Met Your Mother?
A little bit. I unfortunately am not a huge How I Met Your Mother or
most okay. So you're not alone with that. But like I watched How I Met Your Mother, How I Met Your Mother, How I Met Your Mother. A bunch. How I Met Your Mother. She's a lovely lady. Back in the day, and Marshall, who's one of the characters, had a self-described underpants radius. So it was like how far out of their apartment he could go while just being in like a shirt and underpants. And I've like taken that to being like the sweatpants thing. Like, what is my sweatpants radius? Like, can I, and like it starts out small. It's like, yeah, I'll go to the grocery in sweatpants, and it's like, well, I can go to the bank in sweatpants. It's fine. And not that, at that time we were doing a whole lot of, face to face going to the bank or anything. But like, I definitely started feeling like I can get on board with this for sure.
Your radius keeps growing.
It keeps growing and growing and growing. And eventually it just encompasses the entirety of the globe.
I can go anywhere in sweatpants. Doesn't matter, right?
Yeah, exactly. Who cares at this point?
Who cares? Who cares?
I will say too. And it's definitely slowed down as things have started to reopen and as things have kind of slightly returned to normal, whatever normal that is. But like at the beginning of this was drinking way more bourbon.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You're the reason why I'm still working.
To that point, I did hit a point where I was like, all right, all bets are off. I'm grabbing anything that's in the cabinet. And I had a just pile of empty bottles in the studio. And this is, we were talking earlier today about, what would be the best place for us to record. And when I said that my studio was a mess, I meant it's a mess because nobody's been over here since early March. And so I've just let it go like weeds. And so I just had like a bunch of empty bottles just laying on the floor, and I was like, I got to do something about this. And last week took him out to the recycling. I counted something like 25 empty bottles. So, and look, don't anybody like call the police on me or anything, please. But
Honestly,
I was like,
you're not alone. You're not alone.
But I did look at that and go, all right, that's over.
Okay. I've done some damage here.
I've done plenty of damage, and I already feel bad about myself. So let's move on from that. But oh my gosh, though, I mean, like, what like, aside from, you know, your daily wardrobe, I mean, like, what other habits changed for you when everything hit?
Oh gosh, let's see. So I mean, I still my work and all of that fun stuff had to be the same, but I basically like I was not one of those people who like shut down with the shutdown. You know, I know a lot of people who are just like, I'm not moving, I'm not doing anything. This is time to watch Netflix and hang out. And I was like, this is go time. I hit go on so much. I like started all these new workout regimens. I started retraining with running. I organized my house and my car, and I just got done organizing like my storage shed. And I went through like digital purges. I am every couch potato's nightmare right now.
I kind of was at first like kind of the opposite of that. I was like, I'm just gonna like ride this out a little bit, see what happens, and then it kind of hit a wall, and I was like, oh crap, this is no good. And like, I'm already just a very anxious person as it is.
Yeah,
I already have deep. Yeah. Oh my gosh, Haley. Have we never? Let's pull back the curtain a little bit on Perry's anxiety and depression, but
that's what sessions are for.
Yeah, exactly. So I just hit a wall, and I was like, we got to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, whether it was just getting out a little bit and, you know, venturing around, and then wound up having a job with the state for a little while, doing unemployment claims nonsense. Anyway, I don't want to get into that either.
It's too much.
It's too much, man. I got enough on my plate as it is. But like, I definitely, I'm such a roll with the punches kind of person. Like, I just don't, if something, I'm at the point where it's like, I gotta just see where this goes. You know, I cannot put out expectations. And if I do, it's just going to be thrown to the ground and stomped in the mud.
Oh yeah.
And so this has been no different. And I feel like, and it's what everybody else has been saying. It's like, this is a great time for self-reflection. Just look at yourself, see what can be worked on if you need to, you know, yada, yada, yada. But like, it's true to some degree. I mean, this is the period where, you know, you have no excuse anymore for putting stuff off.
Right.
I mean, this is easily the time when you just start going, something's got to change.
Right. I gotta do something here. And I think for me too, like, I was honestly like on the brink of that beforehand. And so I think that's why this was like the perfect timing. I don't know. I honestly was like that annoying positive person that was like, people are doing good for each other. And like, I was like, people are making masks. People are helping each other out. People are, you know, we were making hand sanitizer and delivering it out to hospitals. And I was like, I was just like, man, the positivity. While other people were like, please, Haley, you need to
just bring it down a little bit. Let's use our inside voices.
Like the grim facts of it all. Because to me, that's also like a weird, if you want to pull back the curtain, that's like a weird defense mechanism too, where like, I don't want to hear the numbers about people dying. I want to be like, but look, look at the silver lining that's happening
Yeah,
in this glorious
but like
thing.
that, and that's a good point too, because like it did get to the point where like I stopped watching the daily updates. I stopped having to, I just couldn't internalize that feeling of really just
The
just
constant
depression.
nightmare.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like I got to the point where I was like, I cannot keep listening to this constantly, and like for my mental health, I've got to stop
Yeah.
paying attention to all of this.
Yeah.
So, um, I think in some way it's a good way to understand your limits, and there's a personal growth silver lining to that as well. But good on you for staying positive during all this. I know that a lot of people aren't.
It's real easy to go down
Uh,
that rabbit hole. And I've definitely, like, I went through about probably actually like a couple weeks ago where I reached that point of just like overwhelmed, what's
yeah,
good, what's
yeah.
bad, what's up, what's down. I shut off
Yeah.
the news. The only thing I was watching was like John Oliver at that
Oh,
point.
hey, same actually.
Right? I was like, he's all I can rely on right now.
But like, I mean, it's a once a week spiel.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's 30 minutes long, and you basically are caught up. And then you can just kind of, I mean, unless something drastic happens,
Right.
you can just kind of shut it off for a little bit. But I will say, I also hit that point a few weeks back where it was just one thing after another. And I literally sat on my couch,
Oh.
and I was in the middle of this is how sad this is. I was in the middle of eating Taco Bell, of all things.
Were you in your sweatpants too?
Yes, absolutely. And I just broke down. I just lost it.
Oh.
I was like, this is an insane time to be living through. And you kind of you hope, and you pray, and you send good vibes and do whatever, that like those of us who are here for it now are learning from things, and we're seeing things, and we're taking the necessary steps so that like our kids and our kids don't ever have to go through something like this again. And like, as a future father with a child on the way, like I think that was kind of part of it too. I was like, oh my gosh, we got to do something else about this.
Right? You've got that
And
fresh on the brain.
yeah, for sure. And once all that really kind of connected, then it was like, this is not enough anymore. And we got to be in this for each other, and we got to stand up for each other too. And that's kind of on a different path from coronavirus, but at the same time it's very similar themes.
It's easy to, well, no, it is. Well, it's easy
Yeah.
to, when you get into survival mentality, right? It's
Yeah.
easy to think like, all right, well, I've got to do this for myself, rather than thinking that I've got to do this. I've got to do something for the community, for the collective, right? But my favorite part about like humanity is eventually, when push comes to shove, we will come together. It won't last very long.
Mm-hmm.
But we will come together.
Yeah.
I read this book, and I reread it earlier this year, called Tribe, and it's by was it Sebastian Young? No, who am I thinking of? I don't remember.
Carl Jung? Are you getting like different names? Either way, please continue.
It's Sebastian Junger.
Oh, okay. All right. There we go.
And it's called Tribe, and there's a couple things I don't agree with in his book. Like he will use the term Indian instead of Native American, but he claims that Native Americans have allowed him to do that, like the ones he's interviewed. So he does it? I don't know. But so there's like a couple things like that where I'm like, oh, okay. But I really appreciate it. The overall like theme of it though is the idea that like of tribalism, of coming together as a community, as a collective, and those things, and the reason why those kinds of societies last longer is because of they're working together, right?
Yeah, that's a really interesting viewpoint.
Yeah, and so it talks about just like that kind of longevity and how like basically things like natural disasters and wartime and things like that bring people together more than they tear people apart. And that like so basically like of course in a time of crises it's still hardwire into us somehow to
absolutely
to like okay, well what do we do to build each other up? So it's kind of funny that you like are talking about that and having that revelation, especially as a you know kind of you're now taking on the father stance, right? The father role in the world. So like now you're thinking generationally too, you know, what's next for my kid and for their kids and things like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And it is very hard to kind of imagine what it would be like for everybody to come together and hold hands and have kumbaya and whatnot. But at the same time, if that's it's so appealing, right? And I mean you want that to be what we move towards, and it's oh, gosh, we could go on and on about this. I feel like, and like my
existential here.
my brain is doing backflips right now thinking about the tribal aspect of things and like how different society would be if we treated it like this is our tribe and we are fighting for each other, instead of like, well, they don't agree with me and being real petty and whatnot. You know, I mean, like it's just I love that. I love that thought of tribalism being a model for modern society. You really did just blow my mind, Haley. I'll say that much.
That, and I've been reading the book Sapiens, which I really enjoyed. And let me tell you this. I've brought this book up like 6 times. I'm only 40 pages in. And I'm like, so this book Sapiens. But it's already blown my mind that much. And it's talking about just like so far. I mean, it's just talking about humans as a creature, right? And our existence and how we came to be and how there were other types of, you know, other types of man on Earth, right? Prior to Sapiens and at the same time as Sapiens, but still they survived because of their like communication abilities and their abilities to work together and things like that. And so, and both of these books were gifts to me. So I don't know why I'm like, okay, whoever, I get it, universe, like I get what. All right, I get the message. We got to work together.
Yeah.
So, but it's another one too that's like just been basically about like the reason why you survive especially during, you know, you're talking about billions of years ago, and you know when you don't have any kind of luxury at that point, when you're making your own tools, you know, you're making the first tools,
the hunter gatherers.
Yeah, exactly. So.
I was kind of on that note, and this gets a little more to the literal core of it, but like I was reading an article today, and the headline was something to the effect of scientists have discovered the source of life in the universe.
Whoa.
And I was like, what are you talking about? And so yeah no, and I was like, well, I have to read this now. And so, and I kid you not, it was probably a 7 or 8 paragraph long article, and I think from paragraph 2 I couldn't close my mouth. Like my mouth was just wide open.
You just
reading through this.
Blown away.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was something that like it makes sense when you step back and look at it. But they were saying that the source of carbon, which is the core building block of life in the universe,
Yeah.
rather, excuse me, comes from white dwarf stars.
Mm-hmm.
And so when white dwarf stars die, when they explode, the carbon is then released from them, and it goes on to create life. And that was part of how our solar system was created billions and billions of years ago. And I can't, I seriously, like I said, I mean, my mouth just dropped.
It's like,
Just think it, like we all, amidst all of this, to read somebody saying that, hey, we figured out why we all even are here, like what the start of it was.
right.
And it just blew my mind. And like it really brought me back down again. And yes, it does sound very hippy dippy, I will say that much. But it dropped me right back down. I was like, okay, I get it.
This is over the top. Over the top. Well, I guess there's like there's all those like cutesy little like Pinterest quotes about how you're made of star stuff and all that stuff. But it's true. Like you are.
It's literally true now.
It's 100, and that's crazy. Like I think Neil deGrasse Tyson kind of had something similar to that, just talking about carbon in general. But now we know like that we are.
Yeah. It's literally the building block of all life. And this is not the direction I expected this Isosession to go.
I feel like we should be on other substances than bourbon.
Hey man, the bourbon will get you there eventually as well.
Right. It takes a little longer, but it gets you there. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. To bring it back to bourbon, though, I two things. I had some of the rye whiskey.
Yes.
Which I have not had in a while, and I hope, Haley, that your job is not doing the math for the proof on labels for Wilderness Trail.
It is not.
Because this one says, and it's very minor, I'll give you that, but it says the ABV is 50.4, but the proof is 100.9.
Yeah, that's not.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to actually on this one. Actually, no, but I will say, I was a little skeptical about the rye whiskey at first. As my palate has kind of developed and the more time I've spent with this, the longer this bottle has opened up. It's so good. It's so good, man. The barrel proof aspect of it too, I think really helps it out, even though it's, a lower barrel proof.
That
is a phenomenal product.
Thank you. It's really,
you're welcome.
Yeah, I made it.
I know you did.
I worked hard on it. That is 100% what I think about it too. Though it is a low rye. It's only the whiskey is only 56% rye, so it's low.
Right.
But at that barrel strength, you're getting still kind of that kick that a lot of rye drinkers are looking for, right? And so it gives you that without it being just too lulled, because initially we were gonna have like a lower proof, like a 96%, proof product, and it just didn't pack quite the punch. It really didn't have it. And
sure, but didn't Shane say back in February that you guys were putting out a lower proof rye for bartenders?
That's the game plan. But bartenders, the idea though is to be able for them to mix it in a cocktail.
Absolutely.
A barrel strength rye is not always a bartender's first choice to put in a Manhattan. Although
that is true,
it's delicious and they do it. They have done it. But like as far as price goes, and also as far as flavor profile, especially if you start doing cocktails where you're mixing more than one liquor into there,
Sure.
that'll start to add up pretty quickly too. I mean, there's a reason why LITs make you LIT. LITs because
we went to a bar recently, and which is a strange thing to say out loud during all this. And
it almost sounds like you don't know yourself.
Yeah. Also, don't call the police on me again, please. But we one of the guys that was with us. It was like a craft cocktail bar, and the bartender was like, "What do you want?" His name's Greg, by the way. He's a good friend of the show, a patron of the show as well. Go check him out in Florida. He's a great dude.
Oh, it's in Florida? No, they don't care about the virus.
Sidebar. Anyway,
I'm joking.
No. Yeah, it's all good. Anyway, so he looked at the guy and said, "What do you want?" And he said an LIT, and he basically just straight up said, "You're not drinking an LIT in my bar." It was a wild moment, but I enjoyed it. Anyway, but the other thing I wanted to say, and this is by far my favorite Wilderness Trail product, the high rye bottled and bond bourbon. This is just a spectacular whiskey. I absolutely love this bourbon to death. And to make it even better, I'm on the last couple pours of batch 1 of this bottle. Yeah.
The DO1?
Uh-huh.
Oh.
Oh yeah. It's been put to good use. But I think this might have to be laid to rest here soon. Dadgummit, y'all. And we were saying forever that we cannot wait to try the rye bourbon. And sure enough, it delivered. I like I said, this is my favorite Wilderness Trail product so far. Having not had the 6-year weeded, I want to clarify that.
Disclaimer. Have you?
In my experience.
But
no, I so far, allegedly. No, I think that this is, and I really can't wait to see what a couple more years does to this product as well. But that being said, it's great at 4 years old. But I've enjoyed getting to sit down and drink through some of these products, not necessarily with you, but as we've been talking about the world at large and coronavirus and how to change ourselves for the better.
Yes.
But tell me a little bit too. I'm just curious because you're more familiar with the 6-year, of course, than I am.
Mm-hmm.
What has changed from the 4-year to the 6-year? What is it? Is it just depth of flavor? Is there a flavor note that has come out in the 6-year that wasn't present in the 4th year too? What have you found with it?
Well, it's kind of amazing because we've been bottling everything up to a 5.5 year, honestly, at this point. So some people have been drinking, darn near close. I don't know what your rating is on your show.
We can get away with that.
Okay. Very close to the 6-year age, anyway. So we've kind of just been, bottling the 4 to 5.5 year. And so you're getting close to those age ranges, but it's funny, in bourbon, it's amazing what like 1 month can do, right? To make bourbon turn a corner, right? To make an age turn a corner. What season, if you go through a really crazy summer and by that fall, your product's totally different than it was 3 months ago. And so it's some of it, I don't know if it's just kind of placebo where I'm like, oh, it's 6-year. But like, to me, there's a whole lot that's changed, especially I will say from the 4 to 6. One being just the general like viscosity of it it's got, it's much rounder. It's got a better, I hate the term mouthfeel, but it's got a better mouthfeel. It just sounds so pretentious. But it does. It's true. It's got a better mouthfeel. And then to me, it's got just more balance, overall balance of flavor. It's not that a new flavor really has popped up, at least thus far, I will say. But more just that a lot of our weededs usually have kind of a spike in a certain flavor, right? Usually like, oh, this is, this 15 D07 is just a butterscotch bomb, or this one tastes, it's usually got kind of a spike or a very florid flavor of that, or blood orange, or a lot of just candy notes and things like that.
Right.
It's just much more of a beautiful blend and balance to those same flavors. It's just not quite as jumping. It's not quite as jumpy from one to the other. It kind of takes you on much more of a smoother ride between the processes of, from the start to the finish. So, and so, so it just has that kind of just level of maturity to it, where it's not just so zippy,
Sure. Yeah.
So,
well, if that was a sales pitch, I'm sold.
Oh, well, good. We're going from like a Mazda 3 to, I don't know, it's a nicer car, but I just say
I don't
what I drive, and it's so zippy and bangy.
I'm not a car guy.
I don't know. I'm not impressed by cars, really. But
yeah. But I am excited to eventually grab a bottle of it, and I'll definitely have to make the trip up to the distillery here soon and
come see us.
Yeah. Because I haven't been to a distillery since March, so it would be a nice way to kick things back off here soon. Also, I have to be conscious of how much work I have to get done around the house, because we gotta convert the recording space into a baby space.
I was gonna ask what are your preparations like? Because how far along are you in getting ready? I guess is the question.
So she's officially 6 months pregnant.
Okay.
So I'm about 5 months behind on preparation. Yeah, I really need to take the time to box everything up and move it. So it's the studio itself is basically going to be transplanted into our garage, which, it's nice. I have another space for it and everything.
Right.
But at the same time, like, we have garage cleaning we have to do before that can happen. And it's a very multi-layered process that is definitely grating a little bit on my anxiety, but it's going to be okay. I'm going to get there. This is, again, me talking out loud, trying to work through some
He's fine, everyone. He's fine.
I'm fine. It's going to be okay.
Someone can stand some 6-year-old weeded bourbon so he can make it.
Please. Well, on that note, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up this edition of the TIMBP Isosessions. Haley, it is always so good to get to chat with you, whether it's about Wilderness Trail or what's going on in the world around us. Where can folks find you on social media? Where can they check out more about Wilderness Trail?
Well, Wilderness Trail, you can find us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. Both Facebook and Instagram are Wilderness Trail Distillery. Twitter is WT Distillery, because it won't fit any longer than that on the handles. And then you can find me on Facebook at Haley Perros, and on Instagram at hazy.pesos. And I exist on Twitter, but don't worry about it.
Don't go back and look at her old tweets. She's going to get canceled.
She's going to be canceled. The whole thing. Just
It's all going to be
It's all
over.
gonna
It's
be
all going to
gone. It's all gonna be gone.
Well, you can follow the show at My Bourbon Pod on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can leave us a 5-star rating and review in the iTunes podcast app if that's where you listen. And then you can become a patron of the show at patreon.com/MyBourbonPodcast for as little as $1 a month. We appreciate everybody who is a patron of the show. Once again, patreon.com/MyBourbonPodcast. Haley, thank you again for
Thank
sitting down.
you. Yeah.
Absolutely. We'll have to do this. We'll have to do it again soon.
Please.
Of course. Yes. And we will see you all for the next ISO sessions. But until then, I'm Perry, and this is My Bourbon Podcast.